Hello, everybody. I am Michelle Cooper. I am the owner of Alchemy Accounting and Bookkeeping. And every week I do these fun interviews with people that I think are doing amazing things in the world. I call them Say Yes to the Mess because often people say no to the mess. They hide from the mess. And the mess, from where I sit, usually involves finances. But what I believe is how you do one thing is how you do everything. So if you're messy in one area of your business, you're probably messy in other areas. So let's clean it all up. So today I'm joined by Darrell, who is a great friend of mine, and he is the owner of Dominate Selling, and he is going to share with us some amazing information about sales and enrollment. Welcome, Darrell.
Hey, thanks for having me, Michelle. And it is messy in sales, just like it is in accounting. Absolutely.
Right? Like,
Yeah.
oh God, sales is an area that I really had to embrace, to be honest. It's not my go-to, and I probably do it all wrong, to be fair. But I try really hard to just be authentic
Yeah.
and come from a place of service and support, and hopefully be able to help the potential client understand that if we are the right fit, that we can help them go from where they're at to where they want to be.
Yeah, that's a great place to start, right? Actually wanting to help the
Yeah,
people that you want to partner up with in business and service customers. Actually like people is a great place to start for
totally,
sales.
totally.
Yeah.
So you're going to share with us some really great information. Why don't you start with, some good stuff about you? Tell us about you, about your business. Share where you're from, what you do.
Yeah, thanks again for having me, Michelle. Just so people, have some idea of who I am and where I am, and I'm based out of Winnipeg. I grew up here. St. Vital is my home in Winnipeg, South Winnipeg, my stomping ground out in St. James, if anybody's familiar with it. But when I came back from the States after being in the States for 2 years, I realized I wanted something that I could see the fruits of my labor, and understand a little bit more. So I got into sales in my early 20s, and have been involved in selling, been involved in management, and now I own a company, and have a team of people that we're all involved in helping people grow their business. So I'm still in it. I like it. Numbers are not for me. But we need to pay attention to them, right? Just like sales may not be for a business owner. Usually, there's business owners or CEOs that have a sales. They have a sales background, and have a interest in it, or there's operations, or there's finance, right?
Yeah.
CEOs, and I just happen to be one that loved selling, and still in that lane.
Yeah, and you're really good at it too,
Thank
right?
you.
Yeah,
I, I
absolutely.
I think so.
Yeah, for sure. Well, I've learned a lot from you, so
Oh, great.
I'm excited to share with the people who follow me,
Hmm.
and share you and your knowledge and what you do. So, um, what is the quickest way to grow sales and control or even reduce the cost of sales? Because what I see with our clients is sometimes the cost of sales outweigh the benefit of the sale.
Mm, mm. Yeah, I love that you bring it up, and I love that we can have those types of conversations, because if the cost of acquiring a client and then the cost of keeping them, or the lifetime value of a client, doesn't give you a return on investment, that's a decision that needs to be made up front versus figuring it out. And you and I could probably have some longer conversations about what that looks like in people's worlds, and how they can prevent it. So I'm glad we're sharing this information. One of the biggest problems, Michelle, that I see in organizations, and I'm going to call every organization a sales organization, because
Mhm.
we're all trying to grow and continue to grow and level up our company, even if we provide a service, it's that sales is often deferred to a person. It's like, I'm going to find a salesperson, right? I'm going to find someone that could, and it's because I don't like sales, and I don't understand it. I just want someone that can do it. And we as business owners, we can abdicate selling to a person when and lose all the control of growing our company, because if we're depending on a person to grow our business, then that's only effective as long as that person's still with us, or
Right.
they're performing. Right? Any of those two
Right.
things aren't happening, then you've got thousands of dollars of going out a month, tons of headache, and no results and no growth.
Right.
So in my experience in 20 years of selling, and going back to the first lesson that I learned in selling, it all comes down to, number one rule is to align your team with the selling process. That's absolutely basic, number one selling process. And not having this salesperson and A, B, C, D salespeople doing different things.
Right.
So often we try to just kind of close our eyes until we get to the end of the month or the end of the quarter and say, okay, hey, where are we now? Are we where we should be? And then we try
Yeah.
to have conversations with salespeople at that point. And now it's, now people are getting defensive, and business owners are concerned about micromanaging because they want to know, well, what's been going on. But there was a whole bunch of things that could have been done, 3 months ago. And it starts with aligning the team to a process. Just like a manufacturing process, you wouldn't have 20 different suppliers providing 20 different variations of raw materials, and 20 different manufacturing processes trying to get the same quality product each time.
Right.
No one would ever do that,
Right.
right?
Right. Right.
So why would we do that in sales? Why would we allow five different salespeople to be selling different ways, hoping that we're going to get some type of consistency in our results? Do people
That's
have different
awesome.
personality? Yep, true. Preach. It's the
Yeah.
truth, right? So we don't want to control anyone to have our personalities, and this isn't about someone having to smile or be unauthentic or anything like that. But what it is, it's about how I go about converting leads to customers is consistent throughout the organization. And the business owner, and some people don't like to hear, but you and I were talking about this backstage. It's that sometimes it's better to hear the truth, and it's about what's right than who's right, right?
Totally.
And what's right is that as a business owner, we take responsibility for our organization, and we say, listen, let's map out a selling process that we're all going to use, because we need to all communicate the same language. When Michelle, you tell me you're in stage 3, I know what that means of converting a lead to a customer. But if
Right.
you tell me you're waiting for a call back, well, what does that mean, and how long is that, and how long
Right.
have you been waiting, and when's the next step? And there's all these questions
Right.
and confusion that's answered by just aligning the team to a sales process. So
Oh
that
my
would
God.
be the number one rule.
That's
um,
awesome. It's interesting, right? Because up until now in my business, I've done all the sales. And I always kind of figured, well, people, they hear me speak, or they see me at an event, or, I'm doing the networking and stuff. And so I should be doing the sales process. Well, in the past 3 months, I have a team member who does the sales process now. Well, she's just started doing it. And so this makes me think of so many questions, right? Of like, what is our sales process? Like,
mhm,
it's not mapped out, right? Like our onboarding process is mapped out, but like just what you said, like stage 3, well, what is that for us, right?
mhm.
And as a business owner, it's always in the back of my head, and I don't like to keep things around floating around in my head, right? Like I like to have a place where I can go check.
Yeah,
Otherwise, I feel like I'm having to micromanage somebody, and I don't like that,
yeah.
right? So that's great. And so do you do this with people like your clients? Do you help them map out a sales process for their business?
Yeah, I do. And one of the misconceptions is that there's going to be some expert that you're going to hire that is going to be able to magically tell you something about how to grow your business that you don't already know. And maybe I'm losing potential clients by being that honest, but the truth of the matter is, Michelle, you know how to grow your business, right? All we need to do now is ask the right questions to get it out of your head, to
Right.
make it visual and mapped out. And you know what? Your team member who's responsible for helping to increase your client or grow your clients and acquire new ones probably has some experience or some tips that they can also add to the process and make it better,
Yeah.
right? But until it's out and it's visual, and you can sit back and look at it and say that's what I've been doing, nobody can contribute to that, right?
Wow.
So that's exactly what we do. Matter of fact, we're working with a government agency locally here in Winnipeg, and they have a great, phenomenal team, and high energy, aggressive in a good way. But everybody, on one department, everybody was kind of doing their own thing. Another department, they were kind of doing the same thing. But until I guided the department leaders into pulling from their team members, what are you doing? And you know what?
Right. Right.
Person over there, you're very successful. So what are you doing? And
Right.
why don't we all replicate that? Why don't we get the knowledge transfer? Business owners, sometimes we're terrible. People leave our business and pursue other opportunities. That's just a part of business. But did we learn everything we needed to learn about how they were successful in their role and then now use it for the entire organization? Like, that's the knowledge transfer that when you map out a process, you're now able to start incorporating and adding everyone else's good work
Oh
as
my God.
well.
That's so good. Oh, what a good like piece of information. It's like a gold nugget to me. Um, so in looking at the like process map of sales and stuff, how can business owners create greater efficiencies in resource management with their sales team then?
Well, along the same line of having a process would be to involve your team. Just a perfect segue into this, Michelle. It's to involve your team into building the process, because everyone has a skill set, everyone has experience that they're going to be able to bring to the table. And why reinvent the wheel?
Right, right.
Right? We're talking about productivity. We're talking about salespeople are responsible for, as business owners or CEOs. What do you want? You want your sales team to grow revenue, right? Help you grow revenue. You want your sales team to be efficient and effective, with their work, right? Not wasting time, and all to be efficient, be effective and productive. You want them to be good stewards of the resources that you're entrusting them to be stewards of.
Right.
And when you have a process, none of it's guesswork, because it's all mapped out on what they need to do, and they're contributing to developing it.
Yeah.
Right? So you get the best of everyone. And you also get, the other thing is, Michelle, is you get to look at the map and you start saying, well, why are we doing that? Why are
Yeah.
we doing, stage 3, step 22? Why do we even do that?
Right.
You were asking about efficiency. I have a client that has a local, it's a distribution company, and it has a local office here in Manitoba, and they had a Saskatchewan office a couple years ago that we flew out to, and it was part of aligning the team with the sales process, and we mapped out the sales process. The owners helping guide them through this, mapping out the sales process, and because they're seasonal, they sold seasonal products. There was this gap, this 4-month gap between the third contact and the fourth contact when prospecting. And nobody's right, because they're hitting their numbers, so nobody's asking anything. But
Yeah.
the thing is, when we started, we wanted to align the team for greater efficiency. Now we're looking to see, well, what are you doing? And by the way, it's not pointing the finger saying, what are you doing? It's just like, what's
Yeah.
going on? How are you doing it? And
Yeah.
then you see, well, why are you waiting 4.5 months between step 3 and step 4? And there's all these reasons and everything. But the point is, that's a ton of inefficiency.
Yeah.
That is a ton of waste.
Yeah.
And fortunately the business could handle it, and you know, they fixed it, and they're growing, they're continuing to grow. But until you put it out there, right, and until you shine light on it, you don't know what you don't know.
Right.
The last thing about efficiency, Michelle, is that one of the greatest inefficiency, one of the greatest waste in selling is not using the talents of other people. And I kind of alluded to this in the beginning, but people have experience, they have skill sets that they can bring to the table if they're just asked,
Right.
right? And when you involve people into building the sales process, they're going to bring their best foot forward. You know, I don't think anybody goes into work trying to do a bad job, you know, on a given day. We all
Totally.
have life. We all have mess, right, in our life.
Totally. We all have messes. Absolutely.
But how good does it feel when someone says, "Hey, what do you think? Hey, what's
Yeah.
your opinion? Hey, how do you do this?" Especially those personalities that maybe are a little more quiet. And
I
until you
love
ask their opinion, they're a little bit quiet.
Yeah, I love that because, like, as a business owner, I tend to feel like, oh, well, it's my responsibility to create this, right? It's my responsibility to create the process and like train them on it, and not thinking it about it from like a collaborative point of view, which I love collaboration, and so it
Right.
totally makes sense, right? Um, I I love process mapping. So, like, I feel like I missed my calling there. It's one of my favorite things to do. And I like making the big map of it and the
Yeah.
arrows and all the things. But
The sticky note company loves your business.
I know, right? Yeah, totally. Like, you should see my whiteboard in front of my desk. It's crazy. But I really like that, and that for me is something that I feel really inspired by now from
Great.
this conversation. Like, it's awesome. I hope other people think of that as well. Um,
Glad you can geek out on
totally, totally.
it.
When I think about uh, growing our business, right, and growing revenue, how can like the small business owner get new salespeople growing revenue quickly? Like, I know there's this kind of like gap where you bring somebody on, they don't generate revenue. For me as a numbers person, I'm always looking at, are they kind of like paying their way kind
Yeah,
of thing? Um,
totally.
is it a revenue generating role? Is it a non-revenue generating role? What's their contribution? How do you fix that?
Well, great question. You fix it by measuring your process,
Mm.
right? It's important to measure the leading indicators. I'm going to tell you a great story. For have you ever read any books by Angela Duckworth?
Yep,
Yep. So the book Grit, that you know,
I've
there.
read that, but I've seen it.
Okay, so great story in there about two student organizations that you've got these high performers and student in group A, that it's all about, you know, getting the grades, right? They're going to be taking a test, they're going to challenge a test, and it is about you need to do well. So the pressure is on, the angst is up, right? It's high stakes. You got to do well. And then you got this other group B, these students here, they didn't have any of that conversation. They're going to be taking the same test, but it was about, hey, what are your study habits? Hey, what's your sleeping habit? What are the things that you need to do on a daily basis to get the outcome that you want?
Oh,
Right. So when they took the test, so the story's not done here, but when they took the test, the group A actually performed higher. They performed a little bit higher than group B, but they gave the students an opportunity to do another test and challenge at a higher level. And group A, 90% of the majority of them, they didn't want to take it. They were burnt out. They didn't, it was all this focus on the end result. Right. And
mm,
this group here, 90% of them, majority of them, they wanted to take on the challenge. Why? Because they knew what it took to get the outcome they wanted. So now they were going to go through that process again of learning about the steps. And that's just like onboarding a new salesperson. You want to measure and understand what type of activities and behaviors do your salespeople need to do so that they get to the sale. How many calls do they need to make, right? How many meetings do they need to have? I remember working for this one company when I was just before I was married, so maybe about 15 years ago. And man, every day, every week, Michelle, like clockwork. Monday, we had our call day, 72 calls to book 12, to talk to 36 people, to book 12 appointments that week, to have 6 presentations, to close 2 deals every week. Every
Wow.
week. And guess what? When you didn't do your full call day, you wouldn't get the 72 in. And guess what? You don't magically talk to 36 people. It just wouldn't work out. The number,
Right.
you love this, right? The
Yeah,
numbers.
it's math.
But when you just do the work and trust the process,
Yeah.
it happens, right? So don't
Yeah.
trust don't trust the people. Like, trust people, but don't trust your business to the people. Trust the process.
That's the
And then
process.
you've got a beautiful organization where it's a no blame environment, because Michelle, if you're not getting the results that, we think you should be getting, hey, where are we breaking down in the process? Let's fix this together. And it
Yeah.
becomes a collaborative, not a blame environment, like you didn't get a sale,
Right.
right? That's
Right.
unhealthy.
Totally. Totally. I love that. It's funny because when I'm coaching with people, a lot of times they're like, what do I need to do? And I'm really forceful about developing predictable revenue. And part of developing predictable revenue is understanding and tracking your conversion data,
Yeah.
right? So
Bingo.
it's exactly what you described. And a lot of times I'll say to people, well, um, how many people do you have to talk to get an enrollment call booked, right? So, for example, if you're an online entrepreneur and you're going to do a webinar, right? How many people need to be in the webinar for you to get 10 calls for you to convert 5 people,
Those are the right
right?
questions. Hmm.
And once you know that, then it becomes predictable. I need to do, just like you did, 2 presentations a month to minimum 100 people to get 50 people on the call, like, to book a call, to get 20 people on the phone, to convert 10 or whatever
Hmm.
it is, right?
Hmm. Yeah,
Um, and it's just math. Like, it's that simple,
it
right?
is.
So I
It
love
is.
that. I love that. So
So
this is like
that's
such good information.
well, you're living it. You're living it, right? Sales and the numbers, and not just the sale number, but all the activities, and it all comes down to numbers, right? And that's how you get people onboarded and get them to the speed of revenue, right? I think that's a real
Right.
term, the speed of revenue,
Yeah.
quickly, and, is by doing that.
Yeah.
I
Yeah,
like that you're excited
absolutely.
about it. Yeah.
Yeah, I love that. I was talking to a client recently and she was like, I don't, I got the sales guy. He's supposed to make these calls. We've got this, like, database of like 5,000 people. He's got these people to call. He's supposed to do like 50 calls a day or something, and he maybe does 5. I'm like, get rid of him, fire him. Like, but at the same time, I like what you're saying is like, what's the process here? Like, I'm really an advocate for setting people up for success and
Yeah.
making sure everybody understands the expectation, right?
Yeah.
So if does he understand the expectation is that he talked to 50 people a day?
Yeah.
If he doesn't,
That's
then how
huge.
can you like blame him if he only talks to 5? Does he understand the conversion process, right?
Yeah, Michelle, I find that sometimes as business owners, we struggle, or sales department leaders, we struggle because we feel like it's micromanaging to be asking someone what's going on. And number one, you got to have expectations, right? You've got to create those expectations. And what I recommend is that when somebody knows what the expectations are and they fall below those expectations, guess what? We go back to the process and
Yeah.
we say, hey, where's the breakdown? The expectations 50 and you're only doing 5, for example, right? Let's walk this out. And then the person says, well, you know what? I had a quote that came through, and it was important and resulted in some new business, and that's why I didn't get to the calls. Okay, so what we're gonna do now, this is what I would recommend, is if you're to make 50 in a day, okay, guess what? That means by lunchtime you're at 25. So
Right.
let's do this. I'm gonna manage by exception. I'm gonna assume that you're gonna make it to the end of the day. But you now have the responsibility. If you're at less than 25 by halftime, I want you to come to me, right? Raise your hand, put DM, whatever, and let me know so I can come and help you remove whatever roadblocks going on to help you finish off and be successful. Right. So we need to put these little guide rails or these little lamp posts so people understand exactly what you said, what the expectation is. And we need to be uber clear and make it visual. And maybe it's just as simple as, listen, every hour, here's a whiteboard, and you've got whatever that works out to, Michelle. If you're, let's just say you're calling in a 5-hour day, you need to do 10 calls an hour. And so every hour, I just want you to circle in green the hour, and then I know that you hit 10. And guess what? I don't need to come take you off the phones. I don't need to bother you. But if I walk by and I see there's an hour that it's circled in red, I'm going to know to stop by. And my commitment to you is I'll just circle by every hour. As long as I see the green, you just keep going. We're all good.
That's awesome.
And that's how we're allowing people to use their talents and abilities. But as leaders, we're removing the roadblocks to do exactly what you said, Michelle, and that's set people up for success and help them be successful.
Totally. I love that. Thank you so much. Such good information here today. Like, honestly, if people are trying to like withdraw themselves from the sales process of their business, get salespeople on their team, nurture salespeople, or improve their sales process, like, you are a huge resource. So thank you so much for sharing this. And I really encourage people, like, this is an important piece of your business, an important piece of your business growth. If we don't have sales, we don't have a business, right?
Nothing
It's
happens
simple
until
as that,
someone sells something, right?
right? So yeah, contact Darrell. He's amazingly skilled and knowledgeable in this area. So thank you so much for sharing this. I learned so much, and I feel like I'm gonna have to call you and be like, hey, need some help over here.
Anytime, Michelle. I got time for you all day. Hey, and if you reach out to me because you've seen this this broadcast, make sure you tell me that it's from watching Michelle's show here, and I'll make sure you get VIP treatment. All of our clients are
Yay!
VIPs, but we'll put you to the front of the line. Michelle's an important person in a lot of people's business, including mine. So,
Awesome. Awesome. Thank you so much, Darrell. I really appreciate it.
my pleasure. Thanks for having me, Michelle.
All right, everybody, say yes to the mess in your business, your finances, your sales, whatever it is for you. If this is an area that you need to improve, which who doesn't need to improve sales in their business, I encourage you to reach out to Darrell. And tune in next week when we have yet another amazing guest. See you guys later.